dark embrace. His fist closed around the serpent's eye. Strange and eternal.
I need you to get me that girl I saw. You know what to do.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dudes Watch a Movie video podcast, where myself, Dead Sprocket, followed by...
Notorious G.I.N.G.
Yeah, there you go. I'm glad you caught on to that. So, we watch movies, and this, if you haven't figured it out, by episode 31, well, I don't know where you've been. That being said, it is October, as if you couldn't tell already with our spooky decorations of sorts, and, so we decided to watch the spooky movie. I don't know if it was so much spooky as much as it was,
Batshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but bats are spooky.
But it's bat shit. Guano.
Guano.
Guano balls. So yes, we watched the 2018 movie, which, by the way, I just looked at it. It came out September 12th or 18th, I don't know. But anyway, relatively recently.
Oh, damn.
This year, 2018. The year of
our Lord.
2018. Anyway, yes, called Mandy, and let me read you the plot real quick just to kind of get you a rundown. It says, taking place in 1983, Red is a lumberjack who lives in a secluded cabin in the woods. His artist girlfriend Mandy spends her days reading fantasy paperbacks. Then one day she catches the eye of a crazed cult leader who conjures a group of motorcycle-riding demons to kidnap her. Red, armed with a crossbow and a custom axe, stops at nothing to get her back, leaving a bloody, brutal pile of bodies in his wake.
You know what's insane about that?
It's pretty spot on.
Well, that synopsis, there's not a whole lot that really happens in the beginning yet. It took so fucking long.
It does have a slow start.
Snail's pace.
Very, very, very slow.
Damn.
This was directed by Panos Cosmatos. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Did you, by chance, find out who his paw was?
Who's Paul?
Panos.
No.
Panos' daddy apparently directed Tombstone.
Oh, did not know that. No, I didn't look that up. But the writers is also Panos and Aaron Stewart Ahan, and apparently two other credited people that I didn't give enough credit to put in there, because neither did IMDb.
Yep.
So let's go off the cast real quick, just a few, because some of these names don't even pop up yet. There are so many fucking names in this cast list. We have Nic Cage as Red Miller, Andrea Riseborough as Mandy Bloom. I didn't even give him a last name in the movie. Linus Roche as Jeremiah Sand, Ned Dehenny as Brother Swan, Olin Fourier as Mother Marilyn, Richard Brake as the chemist, which I guess that's what I put him in my notes as. Bill Duke Carruthers, which the name never pops up. Like I said, half of these names in here don't even pop up. We have Sister Lucy by Line Pinnell. And there's other names in here like Brother Colette, Brother Hanker, Brother Lewis, Scratch, Sis, Scabs, Fuck Pig, Dog the Dog, and Lizzie the Tiger.
I would assume Scratch through Dog the Dog might be, I would assume the monster weird whatever they were.
That might actually make sense. The monsters have their own names.
And then, like, these are the unnamed actual... Because you see other clan members, but they don't actually specifically say them. They say true. Lucy, they say Marlene, and all that, but I don't know.
Yeah, Swan. Yeah. But, I mean, that makes sense. Scratch, Sis, Scabs, Fuck the Pig, and Dog the Dog. I mean, I don't remember him killing that many people, though. But
yeah.
Anyway, that's our cast list. So I'm going to go in real quick with my pre-movie thoughts. Never having heard of this film, I was perusing Microsoft's movie library, came across this one, saw Nic Cage, was like, oh shit, Nic Cage is in another movie. How good can it be? So after seeing the trailer, I wasn't really having any sort of hope for anything amazing. It just looked really colorful, and literally, like, there were lots of different color changes. So something more probably over the top is what I was expecting. So stupid, probably it might be good. Also, a bit of meh, just because Nic Cage, his acting chops are that to be made fun of most of the time. Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of biased just because of that. Because, you know, like if you ever see Harry Potter in another film, Daniel Radcliffe in any other film, all he is Harry Potter. Nic Cage is just...
To you, maybe.
Yeah. But anyway, that's my pre-movie thoughts. You?
Red, blue, blood, chainsaw. That was it.
Well...
That's what I gathered from the trailer. I've also realized that I don't know how to grab this cup. Like, no, there's no real good way to...
probably the narrow base part of it.
Well, I tried that, but that's really awkward because it's all squared off. I think it's just all the way up here, and that's just, I guess, tail end.
Try it over the top. There you go. And then do it really weird.
Yep, that's a surefire way to drown. That's all go in windpipe.
Beautiful. Also, I think you've got a floater in there. Anyway,
Right.
So first, right off the top of the movie, it opens up with a line, maybe a line of I thought it was lyrics at first. It goes over saying, "When I die, bury me deep, lay 2 speakers at my feet, wrap some headphones around my head, and rock and roll me until I'm dead."
There's no floater in here.
I was thinking about it, but it looked like a little eyelash of sorts.
Mm.
Anyway, that line I actually looked into because I've never heard it before and wanted to know the importance, if any. And apparently these were the last words of a murderer and kidnapper, Douglas Roberts, who was executed in 2005. So...
There might have been a floater in there.
I wasn't lying to you. But yes, no, Douglas Roberts, have you heard the name before?
No.
Okay. Then I guess it's not that important. But I thought it was going to have more of a premise and more of a purpose to be in this movie. I didn't see it whatsoever, but then again, maybe this movie isn't for me. Not the type of audience they're going for. So that's what it opens up with. So I was expecting maybe some actual metal music or something crazy going on. Maybe some Iron Maiden or something
Some
heavy.
Some power metal.
Not only that, but the text for Mandy pops up as one of those black metal band
Oh yeah,
texts.
100%.
That
Yeah.
script.
The twig text.
The one you can't even read.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it pans over with our star Nicolas Cage, Red, which I'm going to refer to as Cage this whole time because I didn't know his name was Red until literally just about 5 minutes ago. Has him working in a logging area, the only guy in this logging area not wearing any sort of safety gear, just cutting down trees with everybody else around him. Helicopters out of there, and then the movie just continues to crawl. And as that's happening, he gets to his little log cabin area, and the first line we get from Nic Cage is a fucking joke. A knock-knock joke. A very bad knock-knock joke. Rough start at first. So then I go from there, and then we get to see all these fucking solar flares and light changes for the entire movie.
Yep.
Just nonsensical light changes. Which, unless it's trying to go for a mystifying look, I wasn't catching it.
Yeah, oh boy. This movie tried so hard to have a style, but I don't know what it was. Like, they had lens flares, they had really, really saturated, colorful lighting, they had like an overlay of grain throughout the entire movie, and really shallow depth of field almost the entire time, and then they started doing like ghosting effects, weird like super wide angle lenses, and I was just so confused. It was like he watched a bunch of other movies that he liked things from, and it was like, I'm going to do that, and then some of that, I'm going to take a little bit of this
And put it all together, and it did not mix well.
Yeah, the style was, I don't even know what to call it. It was just like a hodgepodge of things.
So the film takes place in like 1983,
Yep.
and I'm feeling like they're trying to ride maybe it's not ride coattails. They're trying to follow up the whole like LSD trippy type film, where there's a lot of like not necessarily drug references, but hey, let's make a psychedelic film where there's going to be lots of different colors and lots of haze and lots of like voice changes for sure.
What's that have to do with 1983?
Well, I'm just saying it's like the late 70s, because isn't the 70s when LSD was a huge thing, or is that the 60s?
60s into the 70s, but what does that have to do with 1983?
Well, I'm just saying they're out in the middle of fucking nowhere, so maybe they're stuck in an era.
I think they're just trying to cash in on the Stranger Things vibe. There's literally no reason for this movie to take place in 1983. There's nothing that happens in this movie that necessitates it setting place in 1983.
They took out cell phones.
It still wouldn't have mattered, though. They're rural enough that you could have just said they had no reception.
Satellite phones.
Did he ever even try and attempt to contact authorities? When he was free of them, he just went to a guy he knew to get weapons and was like, I'm doing this on my own anyway. So there was nothing in that movie that made it have to be in 1983 other than he wanted an excuse to do like the fun text that they were doing, which I did like. I liked the little cue card things they had. And they gives them an excuse to do like the fun, like really red and blue colors like Stranger Things, and do like kind of like the ethereal sounding soundtrack.
I guess if you're going with that, they just took everything and amped it up by like 26.
Mm-hmm.
There's no 11. This just surpassed it, and it didn't make a lot of sense.
Oh, good puns though.
I'll tell you what though, I'll say my least favorite character of this whole entire movie is Mandy.
She reminds me of Shelley Duvall, and I did not like that one bit.
Yeah, she just has that deer in the headlights look about 98% of the film. Doesn't have a whole lot of lines, and when she talks, you're not really all that interested in what she has to say. It's just she doesn't have a lot of substance as a character, so why should we care that he avenges her? But hey,
It's the entire movie, honestly. Like, Nicolas Cage didn't have much of a character, to the point where we didn't even know his name was Red.
To be fair, there wasn't a lot of dialogue in the whole film other than from the cultist leader himself.
Jeremiah was the only person that had any real character.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not gonna get to the point yet as to whether or not it was good, but he had something.
Something.
Yeah. Otherwise, they talked for like 5 minutes about their favorite planets for no reason. I thought like they were setting up like I guess maybe they were extraterrestrial beings or whatever it was, but after they were talking about the planets, and then the first time you see the motorcycle gang, it almost looks like they're coming out of the sky, but then it's like, oh nope, they're on ATVs because they're extreme.
So I wrote in there, the guy who goes in there and blows on a horn, he calls out an ATV motorcycle gang. Yeah, all right, cool, I guess. Basically the Mad Max version of Woods Folk.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to see that scene of him blowing into that horn without the added audio that they put on there. Just him standing awkwardly. Because that's probably how it was.
Okay.
And then only because there's a lot of scenes in this film I'd like to see without the extra shit they put on there, especially Nicolas Cage's screaming in the bathroom scene.
There wasn't really anything else added to that.
Well, I'm just saying, how many takes would it take?
With him? 1.
I mean, you might be right. He has a caginess about him.
He's probably like, I'm going to go do a warm-up, and the director's like, roll this.
Just go. Just do it. So yeah, this cult, they call themselves the Cult of the New Dawn. Cool, I guess. They don't really give them any sort of why they're there, what they're really going after, other than, hey, we do drugs and believe in something that is big and I am a god. The typical cults. And then we are greeted with more damn lens flares, which made me surprised it wasn't made by J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
There's a lot of extra lights that don't make sense either.
More of that like style thing that wasn't necessary, because it's not like we were looking at things through a window, or sometimes it was just straight up to the point of it was like blocking out what you're actually supposed to be looking at sometimes. Like they would be holding an object, or they'd be facing the camera, and then you just see a giant smear of light over them.
And 90% of this film also took place at night, so there is no real thing to be like solar flaring. That makes sense. There's none of that, and none of these lights that were in the woods would probably be bright enough to do such a thing.
I'm still gonna go with that. Lens flares will never ever make sense to me.
Unless you're looking up at the sun for any point and reason.
Even then, it's
For a shot.
even then though, the idea of the camera is supposed to be a neutral observer. Like, it's supposed to generally be like you are watching the action unfold, and the human eye does not see lens flares.
That's true. Yeah, no, this... I just have so much problems with this film. The characters themselves, like I said, his wife Mandy has no substance. Like, she doesn't have a lot of dialogue. She goes in there, she's working a shop, I guess. The place that doesn't even have a cash register. She just puts money in the box. She gets asked a question, hey, what are you reading? A novel? No shit. Like, give me some titles, give me something. And there's another scene in there where she asked fucking Red a question, hey, are you awake? Which is the dumbest fucking question I've ever heard, because you can't ever respond to that unless you're actually awake. And even then, sometimes you just don't want to, so then you're just going to wake someone up and say, hey, are you awake?
Hey.
No.
Hey!
So yeah, she's not the brightest, but I guess she's supposed to be his driving force, which I guess maybe as a man, as a lumberjack, maybe he does do a job that doesn't have him at home, so he can... I don't fucking know.
It seems
I'm
like
grasping at straws.
It seems like with the 40 minutes of nothing that happened, they could have probably used that to build more of a relation.
Yeah, I mean, they basically have him sitting in front of a TV eating dinner together, and I don't know what psychopath eats their food about 4 feet away from themselves while watching TV, but hey, you know.
It just the whole beginning half of that movie just set everything off to a bad footing. So they didn't spend it doing anything worthwhile. So it was mostly just, look at these cool shots we've got, look at the color, isn't this weird? How weird is that? And then things take off, but there's so little time after that he's just running through people left and right. Like, there's no real time to be like, yeah, he did it, because as soon as he kills one person, he's in, like 2 minutes later killing the next person, and there's no struggle at that point. It's just boom, 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 boom.
For being a 2-hour movie, they could have easily put that in the beginning.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
It was, I don't know, there was not a whole lot of peaks and valleys to this movie. It was mostly just like a flat line. And then his character had a dip, and then it went whoop, and it was over. That was it. Once he started,
he literally came.
Yeah,
he literally
did.
climaxed.
He did.
The film literally climaxed, and as did he.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that, there's a shot in this film where he goes on to squish Jeremiah's head with his hands. I was hoping he's going for a mount and just gouges his eyeballs out, but no, he literally squeezes the head between his hands, lifts his head up in there, and goes. And I'm just like, are you fucking serious? So yeah, Nicolas Cage or I guess Red got his rocks off by squeezing a man's head together.
Truth.
Cool, I guess.
Yeah. This movie had a lot of weird, like, sexual overtones and themes.
It did.
Go back to the name of the cast here, because I want to see if based off that we can tell who was who. I'm thinking Fuck Pig is probably the one that had the boner knife. Yeah,
this dude literally... They all were dressed up in almost what seemed like some sort of BDSM gimp motorcycle mix.
They were X Game Cenobites. That's what they were.
Essentially, yeah. But no, the dude literally had this big old tight sweaty leather suit on with the white weird face paint. You never really got to see in their faces, which adds to the ambiguity of it.
Yeah, and that's what makes me think they may have been extraterrestrial, because like the one with the somewhat face you could see, it wasn't painted. It was like coated in a slime, and it was off, and when they talked you could tell it was like a different, like, otherworldly voice. Which I guess it maybe is it's real loose connections with the whole what's your favorite planet? Let me rub my thumb on you while you talk for this entire 5-minute scene, and that's all that I can notice. God damn.
Yeah, no, he just sits there in the same spot and just thumbs that shoulder, and I'm like, you get fucking irritated.
It happens in every movie when they're trying to do like this is the intimate pillow talk. It's like there's always just a dude just doing this for 5 minutes straight, not moving his hand. I'm already getting tired of it. Already. Do the whole rest of the segment here, and I'll just do this. And if anyone watches this, let me know if you can focus on anything other than my fucking thumb. It's awful.
So yeah, no, where was I going with it? Yes, these BDSM. I can't take my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So even these BDSM Cytobyte sex games, people don't have a lot of substance to them. They're not as super threatening. I guess they kind of are, but the dude calls him in with a horn. They're like, hey, blood for blood. He gives him a horn, but he's like, first do the deed, I suppose. And then he chugs down this mason jar full of slime, blood. I mean, I'm guessing it was supposed to be blood, but later on, like, Red comes across this mason jar full of gray, like, I would say, like, grease, and puts it to his tongue, and he has his fucking trip, which I guess maybe that's what these people
he was
are
like
after,
seeing
but
different planets, and
which makes me, like, that's why I don't know if they're extraterrestrials or if they're just really crazed out fucking biker people. Mm-hmm. They call themselves, apparently, I guess his friend calls them Carruthers, calls them the Black Skulls. Just
based on all of them having the weird voices and the one face that you can see, I think they are extraterrestrial. At least that's the route I'm going with on it.
All right. Well, I mean, Carruthers gives a little bit of backstory behind it. Says that they've been stopping at like truck stops and killing truckers and prostitutes and just leaving them for dead. Which, I mean, if that's the ultimate goal of these aliens, I mean, that's kind of fucking weird. But as we said, the one dude with the knife penis was sitting there watching porn. And
80s porn with a sick mustache.
Yeah. And then in the previous room, there's like some dude who's bent over a bed with a girl in the bed, and his butt's all bloody, which just makes you think maybe that's, you know, hey, that's
exactly
gross.
what happened. Yep.
So yeah, like I said, these biker people just, they were kind of more the interesting only because they're ambiguous.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason what really kind of drawn me towards, hey, what are these guys all about? But then Red just chops through them with nobody's business.
Zero
So.
trouble.
And I guess the thing I don't understand is they aided in kidnapping, but they're not the ones that killed his wife. So I don't know what his deal is for them.
Yeah, I don't know how the sacrifice benefits them, because it seemed like they only enjoyed themselves when they were torturing people. So I don't know why. I don't even believe they were there to watch the burning.
No, they weren't. It was just the cultist people, which then makes me understand why, like, he wants to go after them. But it's just a revenge film at its finest, I guess.
And speaking of revenge films,
its finest.
There were a couple other prominent revenge films that immediately jumped to mind while watching it, and I was thinking of other ones that have done it better. It made me happy.
John Wick?
John Wick was one, for sure. For sure. But another one was Kill Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Because they kept doing the weird animated scenes of his dead wife.
That really took me out of it.
Yeah. And all I can think was, he was like, man, it was really cool in Kill Bill when they had that one like anime scene where they were showing the origins of, I can't remember her name anymore, but the Asian
bride?
girl in it. No.
Oh.
Remember they cut back to...
The one with the ball?
No. The leader.
Oh.
The actual one of the members with the
Black
sword.
Mamba's leader. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part, though. They had a good part.
So it's like her when she's younger, and the dude comes in and tries and like rapes her mom, and she ends up killing the dude in the bed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's all animated.
Yeah.
And I feel like he watched that and was like, man, it'd be really cool if I just put animated scenes in here randomly. Except for he did it multiple times and not well.
You know, I wonder if he actually just took a bunch of revenge films. Because, I mean, John Wick does a lot with the colors, too. Not necessarily just, you know,
and
strange things, but...
Obsessive amounts of strobe lights. And then later when he's driving through the forest, it reminded me of another Tarantino movie, which is also a revenge flick. Which this entire thing, I guess, does have a grindhouse feel to it because of the grain overlay. But Death Proof, they've got a lot of shots like they showed where you are in the back seat and it's a really wide angle, or on the hood, and it's kind of stabilized, but it's still got jitter to it. And it seems really like you're going fast and aggressive. I don't know. There's other movies I'd recommend watching.
Agreed. A lot of other better revenge films out there. If you haven't seen John Wick, do yourself a favor. That being said, what else are we from?
We can talk about Jeremiah for a bit if you'd like.
Go ahead.
So Jeremiah was the only person in this movie that consistently had a character. Nicolas Cage had a character for about 2 scenes, and it was just him. I think Jeremiah was trying to out Nic Cage though, in that first scene when he's like laying sideways and talking and just starts yelling out of nowhere, and he's trying to like smile, yell, and look super crazy.
Nic Cage or Jeremiah?
Jeremiah.
I guess I don't remember the scene you're talking about.
So it's when after he sees Mandy.
Oh, when he's laying on the bed.
He's like, I need
gotcha.
her. Bring her to me, and all that stuff. And he's like doing it with the smiley face, and he's telling that person to stop talking, and they keep talking. He's like, what can I do? And I'm just like, okay, it's gonna be one of those movies. And then later on, when they do catch Mandy, and he goes on a monologue for like 5 minutes. To me, with like the color and the camera, it seemed like it was like a Far Cry monologue.
And then it was doing like the wave,
the ghost
effect. Yeah.
Like it straight up, a lot of this movie seemed like it was just a video game. Like,
well, I guess they're trying to simulate the trip that Mandy was having, which how it was induced makes no sense to me. But I guess
through like that tarantula.
I mean, they did like
tarantula
I assume LSD drops in her eyeball, and then the old lady sucks it out of the dripper, and then she takes a tarantula hawk, which I assume that's what it is, as big as it was.
Yeah.
And then just proceeds to sting her in the neck with it, and she doesn't do anything. She's freaked out by it, but like. If anybody knows anything about tarantula hawks, apparently they're super duper painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Which you would think would 100% induce a bad trip.
Oh yeah.
And it did get pretty bad. I don't know. It just, the whole thing was weird because like, again, it was all colored, and I feel like if this movie was on mute and we were doing other things and I looked over, it would look like a really interesting movie. But since we were following the story, it really wasn't. But then he whips the old wanger out.
The most
flaccid,
sad looking penis.
And
begins to try and beat it off in front of her while she's laughing at it.
Which is very true to life. It's like, let me pull out this unimpressive non-hard wiener. It's like, what did he expect? Oh my God, it's so not big. She just starts
so sad.
Yeah, she just starts laughing her ass off, and then so he starts trying to get himself hard and just yelling at her to shut up. And I was like, okay, calm down. Nic Cage is the crazy one here, guy.
Starts beating up Squidward's nose.
Yep. And that was pretty much his character. Just insane guy who thought he was a god. He went like through that monologue. Like, I assume he practiced 100 times in the mirror, thinking this is totally gonna let her or make her let me bone her. And it did not work whatsoever, and it just crushed his spirits.
He had that nice guy effect, where essentially he couldn't get it, so he just decided to go off on her.
He started calling her a whore.
And that's the one thing I was wondering.
An ugly
like,
whore.
Like, what was the purpose of that? So was he looking for the extraterrestrial being that would ascend? Because as soon as she starts laughing at his dick, he then just is like, well, you're useless, I'm gonna burn you. So there was like no purpose of getting her.
And they were mad because they traded the body for her.
What body?
The fat kid.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was the blood for blood thing.
Which was anticlimactic as fuck because we never knew who the fat kid was.
Yeah.
No substance.
There was another person. I don't know if he had a name. He probably had a name in there. It doesn't have a picture, so I'll never know who's who. But it was the one that had like the mullet and the really pointy mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, the one who looked like just dumbfounded all the time.
He was like washing the car. He would be a perfect live action Beavis.
The one who was messing with the fucking van windows?
Yes.
And just staring there
Yes. Oh.
Yeah. No, I agree. His character, like I said, like he had his moments, he had his bits, and he had his little, I guess, I don't want to say monologues, but what is that called when the villain talks?
It's a monologue.
Isn't that like another word for it?
Monologuing. You might be thinking of exposition, but that's where you're saying the story. Like, that's when you're telling them exactly what's happening. So, monologuing is more when you talk less story-based and more like, maybe this is what my plan is, or this is why I'm better than you, or it's just when the villain gets on their high horse for a little bit.
And tells the plan before it all happens, and then decides to kill the person, and fails always.
So in this one, he was like, this is what's going on, and this is why you should believe me, and all that. It's generally when they have the floor for an extended period of time, it's a monologue, versus exposition can just be like, oh, hi, it's my sister who I have not seen for 3 years and she lives down in wherever. It's like you just gave us a small chunk of dialogue that gave us all this other information.
Okay. Well, on top of Jeremiah's character, I will admit the one thing that I kind of liked was that transition shot that he was having while he was monologuing with Mandy.
Yep.
They do this really, really close-up, tight shot of his face as he just keeps talking, and it just goes on for a little bit too long.
Yeah.
But then as he's doing that, because everything's all like fucking overshot, color blasted, that it fades out to her face on top of his head, and then just like smoothly transitions back several times.
Because it's so saturated that it gets rid of most of the features other than like the deep shadow of the mouth and the eyes. So it really goes back and forth to a very eerie effect.
I will say they did that well.
Yep.
But I don't know. Like it's just I have a lot of nice things to say about this film.
I was confused with the cheddar goblin. What the deal with that was.
Like I said, I think it's just part of that little trip he starts having.
Well, so that is an actual product, though. So not in real life. In the movie, it's an actual product. When sister goes to talk to Mandy in the store, she's got a box of it. Because I was like, is that Kraft?
I missed that.
And then I read on it, it said Cheddar Goblin. I was like, what the fuck is Cheddar Goblin? And then he watched a commercial, and it's basically this universe version of Kraft mac and cheese. I was like, what in the world is happening?
Goblin's vomiting macaroni and cheese on his children, and they're okay with it. And the goblin looks creepy as fuck.
Yep. I think it was a Necro Goblin. Just a thought. Yeah, it's that weird video we watched the other day.
Oh, right.
They should not have named this movie Mandy. They should have called it Linger.
Yeah.
And the whole story just kind of does. We watched her. I felt like we watched her burn for 10 minutes, and him just like crying, and them watching, and him crying, and then her burning, and then them watching, and back to him crying, and then them watching. Oh,
it went on for too long.
Yep.
But I feel like it was trying to establish that he is like hurting down to the core because he has to sit here and watch this, but it just doesn't put it across. I feel like that's why they tried to linger, is like feel it, feel the pain. Like he has to watch this whole thing, and then as the audience member's like, okay, can we move on?
Yeah, it's really, I think that's one of the hardest things to do. And I think that falls down to the editor or potentially the director, because they could also be like, no, pull it longer. But you ride that fine line of doing it a little bit longer to, like I said, nail the point home. But then once there's a hard cutoff before it's like, all right, we get it. Let's wrap this up.
Let's go.
Let's move on here.
And with that being said, that fire shot, there is a shot earlier, and I think it's the one where she's coming out of the water, one of the two, where she's actually sitting across from a fire, and it has like her blurred out, and you see the fire, and then it focuses back on her, and I was like, maybe that was foreshadowing.
Yeah. You can 100% tell that this is very competent movie making. Like everyone involved knew what they were doing. It was another case of talent but no taste.
Would you say it was in the fault of the editor, or
no? Across the board, it's definitely like
everyone.
Everyone.
It was a collaborative fuck up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like the shots are really pretty. Lighting is really well done. The small bits of dialogue, nothing seems too out of place other than the weird knock knock joke at the beginning. But then like the acting is kind of odd, and just like artistic choice wise is really strange, but technically well done. But
honestly, I feel like had these techniques been applied to a different genre of film with a different cast, it may have been actually really well done.
Yeah. And like there are pieces of the style that I do like I really like the strong color. They're not so much in this movie, but like I've seen it done well in other ones, and I think it would apply itself well if this guy takes more of this style and like kind of learns how to mellow it out a bit, so it's not the entire movie, but they can use it to emphasize certain shots. maybe don't do it with the grain effect and with the super shallow depth of field and all of it together at once. Kind of, it was almost like overload.
We had watched a little snippet before, but basically how they said like the guy discovered the color whatever in After Effects and just decided to plaster it on everything.
That was Funhouse, I think, was talking about that.
Adam Covey. Those are words. Yeah, nothing on my screen. So I don't know if it was just me, but did you get kind of like an Evil Dead feel to the film a little bit? And it's over the top.
100%. Spoiler alert for what we might be watching next time.
Oh shit! I mean, the correlation is there.
There's a lot of them, except for one will be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there is an over excessive amount of blood. There's a chainsaw fight. There's just the. There's a few one-liners in there.
Yep.
I haven't seen Evil Dead in its entirety. I've seen shots of it, so I understand the basis of it. I've seen the show, but
are probably going to watch Evil Dead 2.
Is that the one where they finally embrace the fact that it's ridiculous and dumb?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can watch the first one just outside if you want to have more of like an understanding of going into it, what's happened previously. But 2 is going to be the one that's much closer to what we just watched, but done well.
Okay. Good enough. Fair enough. I got that, and then I think there was another thing in there. Yeah, maybe not.
No. I think my final note in here, other than the bit about not needing to be in the 80s and that there was no credit music, was just why. At some point, I just gave up and was like, why? I don't know what caused it, but something made me say that.
Yeah, my ending is there. What the fuck is happening in this film?
You want to do, what did we call it? Your pre-thoughts and your post-thoughts?
Yeah, I had final thoughts on this film.
Yeah.
I'll read it word for word. So
Okay.
I said, yeah.
I thought you were like,
It's
you
legit
literally
what I
have
typed
it,
out.
yeah. So like, yeah.
It's not so well. It's a not so well done revenge film. Very little dialogue. Just feels like it's missing so much. It feels like a waste. It wasted so much that could have been done better on another film. Like all their efforts done in a separate film genre would have been better. Like anybody but Nic Cage would have probably been a better choice for this film. That's personal opinion. Why they picked him, I'll never know. There were cultists with not a clear goal other than to take LSD, capture people, and then what? The biker gang apparently came out of nowhere and just is on this rampage for what reason? The only real-ish, clear-cut storyline, Nic Cage and his rampage with the cultists to avenge his dead girlfriend, wife, who knows? All in all, film was interesting and very well done. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts.
I say all I got was looks pretty. Mostly. Waste of Nic Cage because they didn't let him go far enough. Like
that the scene in the bathroom, that was about as Nic Cagey as you could get.
Yeah, but if they had let him do that the whole movie though, like they let him do it they made him sit in silence for like 40 minutes. Like just give me what I want. I think
Peacock, you're gonna let me fly.
it was borderline pretentious. Like artsy fartsy kind of, where I think had they just embraced the actor that they chose to go with and were like, look, we can fucking do something here, I think it would have worked out. I don't know if I want to say better, but more to my preference. I never, if we had started this and I had known that it was going to be Nic Cage covered in blood, snorting cocaine, doing drugs, and running with a chainsaw, I would never have thought by the end of it that I was just like underwhelmed. I would have thought that it was going to be an amazingly fun movie to watch, and it just really wasn't.
It was kind of a letdown, sadly. The trailer just really kind of hyped it up, though, in a way.
did.
It gave a lot of that ambiguousness to it. Then, like, ooh, what is this about? And
Yeah, and when I went
I
to
left with, ooh, what is this about?
when I went to rent it, Microsoft shows you the ratings. Metacritic, or Rotten Tomatoes, one of them has it like a 92%.
Yeah, it got good ratings, and that's
It's dropping now. Yeah, it's
6.9
dropping now.
out of 10.
Yeah.
I guess there's only 11,000 people that rated it. But I also opened up just an extra review just to kind of read a part of it, and it says viewers eager for The Rock will have to wait, basically, because the first half of it's just weird. It sounds like it's supposed to appeal to a certain type of audience where you know, they do admit in there that not everybody, it's not for everyone. It's a film that not a lot of people is gonna like.
I'm trying to figure out what the audience is.
Yeah, same, and that's the one that I'm kind of lost on.
Like, I feel like between the two of us, we generally fit most audience
I'd like to
types.
think so.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess it almost seems like this is a movie that will do better if it goes on Netflix, and they can get the people that are just late night, don't really want to pay attention to something, and just put it on, or stoner group, because it's got fun lights and nothing happens.
Yeah, like this line here that says, "This is a movie that's kind of sad, kind of lyrical, and kind of rock and roll. Its first half is an earnest, artsy character study, and its second is a greasy, sordid revenge flick. It also features one of Nicolas Cage's most bug-fuck crazy performances."
I wouldn't agree with that.
Mandy isn't for everyone, but for those that it is for, it's a hell of a thing. I don't know how it's a hell of a thing. I'm obviously not the target audience.
I would not agree with it being one of his most, what's that, bug fuck crazy. Like I said,
I'll credit Eric Henriksen from Portland Mercury on that one, just so they get fair
there's
credit.
maybe two scenes, one scene, maybe two moments where he goes crazy, but in comparison to like, what is it, The Wicker Man or anything like that.
I was really hoping the moment where he snorted that big old fucking mountain of cocaine that he would have, the music would have picked up and it would have been a little bit more aggressive, but
it stayed with the fun style, but it just wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Man snorts cocaine. Man.
Yeah.
Has a big giant fucking axe. A logger becomes a blacksmith.
Yeah. What was your what the fuck moment?
It's that bathroom scene.
Bathroom scene. Yeah.
Without a doubt. The whole time I'm just like, all I could think of is, no, not the bees. And this moment where he's just like screaming out of range, or out of rage, not range, and he's holding up his hands in like this motion that just doesn't make sense for what someone would naturally do. And then I don't know if it's his bathroom or if it's the cultist bathroom, but somehow he busts in there. He knows where
It's his.
Okay,
That's their house.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
He finds the booze in the bathroom and he's just chugging it down, holding his throat as he's chugging it down, as if to be like, I've never drank in a long
And
time.
then pouring
like
it on his
maybe,
cuts
like, what are you doing?
And for some reason, this bathroom really stuck out to me.
It was the only well-lit room in the entire fucking movie.
The rest of their place looked kind of like a
woodsy cabin.
a cabin of some sort. And then they have a Wes Anderson bathroom, like
Without a doubt.
like the weird patterning and the colors, and it was like all red and yellow and gold, and it's just the whole bathroom scene was.
I think anybody who's on drugs in that bathroom would have been having a bad time.
I was torn between my what the fuck moment. Early contender was the X Games Cenobites rolling up on their quads. I literally said what the fuck in my head there a little bit, but I think it's got to go to Jeremiah jacking off. Another one where they lingered for a while.
Yeah.
And him just yelling and jerking and yelling and
Not a comfortable scene to sit and watch.
Yeah. And since you already brought it up, my favorite scene was the bathroom scene, 100%. Not even close, no competition.
My favorite scene would have been just kind of it would have been more so the part, because I was literally getting excited once he started snorting the coke, and I thought it was gonna go in that batshit crazy.
I was so ready.
Getting
so
amped,
ready,
and then it kind of let me down. But I mean, I don't know. I can't say I have necessarily a favorite scene that sticks out that I want to cling to, but
it was kind of like, I feel like in 2 months I will not remember much of this movie.
Same. I mean,
other than the bathroom.
I don't want to say because it's like a montage, as it's not, but I do enjoy when he went to Carruthers, and Carruthers actually gave him somewhat of a story. He got to tell them what was going on. I enjoyed that part. So if I'll pick one, I'll pick that one.
There's really only two scenes where they do any sort of explanation. It's during Jeremiah's monologue and then Carruthers' monologue, and doesn't answer a lot of questions, but it gives you more of an idea of what the state of that area has been like in recent times.
That's
all he can say is it's like pure evil or something like that.
Nick doesn't have a lot of lines in this film.
No.
Together.
Who's your MVP?
Carruthers. That's all
nice.
I got.
Nice.
Just because of that, he provided me with context.
Yep. And he was one of the people in the movie that I recognize, but I can't place where I've seen him from. He's usually just like a bit character, and I feel like it's generally like a police chief or something like that. Mm-hmm. My MVP was the special effects team. It's another one of those areas of the movie that I did appreciate a lot of like practical effects, especially when they start killing people, like putting the. Can we talk about that weapon he made? Where he just had a mold for some reason.
One side of a mold, too.
Yeah. And he just dumped the molten metal in there, and somehow it was not super heavy, and hit it with a hand. It was like video game effects. Ping, ping, ping. Done.
It was all polished and clean and ready to go.
Perfectly weighted, even though it looks like it weighs 1,000,000 pounds. And the shape of it made 0 sense to me.
I would like to see Skullroom.
Yes, 100%.
See if I can throw that on there.
Puts that through the dude's mouth and then
just gurgles up all the blood and just keeps spitting it out.
Fuck pig's dick going through the wood. Gets stuck in the wood. Got out somehow and got his neck snapped, and he gave another fun face there. But the big one was when he popped Jeremiah's head and like the eyeball came out and all that stuff. I was like, yes,
it's pretty good.
Real effects.
I still would have liked if maybe he would have left him alive, but with his eyes gouges out, you know, because that seems pretty vengeful.
The last pull-out scene, the last pan-out scene. I don't want to go pull out with this movie, you know. Was really weird because they said when they were burning Mandy that the biggest sinners burn the brightest, and then like there's a huge bright white light, which is almost poetic that Jeremiah, who is crazy, is producing that in a way. But then like there's the multiple like moons in the sky and.
Yeah,
and like the landscape became really
I'm trying to think
surreal.
if they're going for some sort of fantasy vibe, just because that blade that they pulled out. I even wrote the whole quote that he says in there. It says, "This is a tainted blade of the pale night, straight from the abyss layer." Yeah, fucking right. Like, are they aware? Like, is this supposed to be taking place in like an
alternate Earth, or because they give it a year, and then they've got real world product like actual like vehicles and things like that. It was so strange. They have actual dollar bill, so it is our currency, but then they pull out and you got multiple like
maybe it's a different dimension or
Earth
timeline of sorts.
I don't know. It's one of those things where it almost seems like they've tried to plant seeds for a sequel just in case it can happen, but I don't know if it'll ever happen. Yeah,
if they do, I hope it's better.
Yeah, or maybe they just didn't have more of a backstory, and they're like, it might have just been one of those things where they're like, that's a cool visual, let's put that in there. I don't know what to think with this movie. Yeah,
that sums up the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a chainsaw fight. Even that one wasn't cool enough to really just stand out.
Yeah, and all the fights, like the choreography wasn't super thrilling, and they were over pretty quickly.
It was all camera work fighting is what it was.
Yeah.
Poor lighting, camera work. Anyway, that's all I got for this one.
Yeah, I got nothing left. I think I hit every note in here. Yep, I like the opening song. That's all I got left. And freeze frames. There was one.
You started a freeze frame counter and only had one.
Only had one. Well, after what was the movie that had there was 3 during one of those movies we watched. Shoot, I can't remember for the life of me which one it was. Might not even have been one we did for this. It might have just been one we were watching.
Yeah, probably.
But as soon as I saw that, I realized that's my new thing is if there's ever a freeze frame, I'm counting it.
Well, I usually do something like the smoking of cigarettes in Constantine.
That's true.
But, you know, there's nothing like stand out in this film. Well, that's all I gotta say. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up.
What was the connection between this and Hardball?
There was a church.
And?
Smoking.
And? Keanu Reeves has a little bit of Nic Cage in him.
That's what it was, yeah. That was a stretch, but I was just more looking for something that was horror, and it was kind of hard to find anything with a connection to Hardball and then going to a horror film.
Yeah, it was tricky.
It was a stretch, so we just kind of We spin the rules like we do. So, are we gonna do 3 this month? I don't know.
We can.
I figured maybe we have this one come out the 1st, we have one come out on the 15th, and then we put one out on the 31st.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that. Okay. Well, keep an eye out for that, folks. If you've made it this far and are listening, appreciate it. But yeah, no, that's been Mandy. I don't necessarily recommend it. If you're really bored and it's free, watch it. I wouldn't pay for it.
Maybe get inebriated.
Yeah.
Don't watch it sober. It may help. It may make it worse. It's really hard to tell. It wasn't bad enough to laugh at, but it wasn't good enough to enjoy.
So, anyway,
we could maybe. I mean, I guess I don't know how long we've been going for, but I feel like there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. So potentially we can maybe do other revenge movies we could recommend over this one.
Yes.
Such as like John Wick, which we mentioned, who is good enough to make our wall, just like John Cena.
I can't wait for the 3rd one.
Other fantastic ones, anything by Tarantino. That's actually, a lot of his movies are revenge-oriented, aren't they? Django, Kill Bill 1 and 2, Death Proof. Shoot.
I feel like this man should have taken a note from his book.
Yeah.
A better note, not just effects. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. That's been Mandy. We've been doing Watch a Movie podcast video thing. Mababer, I'm Ted Sprocket. This is Troy Shinji. Have a good night.
Spooky.